30-30-30, part 2. So on this one, we're going to look at the events of the 60s that either shaped, changed, or shocked this nation. And when you put them together with the events of the 90s and the events of the 30s and roll them all together, we get a shadow of foretelling of things to come here in the 2020s. This is for educational purposes only, and the fair use is in the description. Hallelujah.
But when you talk about a new structure, I'm not sure you've used the term new world order. I mean, what is it? Is it simply a world order that's defined by new interest and new mutuality of interest?
That's certainly how you have to start. And I know the view that you start by converting the whole world to our political philosophy. I don't think that can be done in 1 or 2 terms of an administration. That's a historic process that has its own rhythm.
Now, real quick, let's go through the 60s, because the 60s was just as bad with even less news media. And every one of these was a big deal, but on a different scale in the 60s. Now, remember, these are not only big media things, but these are things that either had you glued to the TV, wondering what happened, or things that changed the world or the landscape of America. So the 60s, number one, in 1960, President John F. Kennedy was elected. He was elected. Now, think about this. Him being elected is what set off everything. Because once he got in there, he wasn't sticking to their script, Trump, and they did what? Took him out, and then that caused a whole snowballing thing going on all the way through the 60s, which eventually, 30 years later, where it got to where George Bush could get up there and comfortably say, we are announcing the New World Order. So number one on the list, President Kennedy elected. Now, my beloved auntie, any of these in the 60s that you might have some side wisdom on, enlighten us.
Okay.
Number 2 on the list, the Bay of Pigs invasion, 1961. The Bay of Pigs invasion. So what was that? That's when our government went over to Cuba and tried to take out their government.
Cool.
You see, America now, they done got good at that now. They done got good at that. Going over to other people's countries and trying to take out leadership. And so it was called the Bay of Pigs. They went in there and they failed. And they failed in whatever their little plan was. That was done by the CIA, and it failed. And by it failing, it brought about number 3. Number 3 on the list, the Cuban Missile Crisis. So because they wasn't able to achieve what they wanted in the Bay of Pigs, missiles was set up in that country and pointed directly at us. Who is the boogeyman right now of the 2020s to us?
Putin.
And Russia.
Putin, yeah.
Putin, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the Cuban Missile Crisis with?
Castro.
Russia. Yes, Castro and Russia.
Russia put the missiles in Cuba.
Yes. To do what?
Pointed at us.
To get us.
Yeah.
To get
Right.
us.
Yeah, and Cuba allowed it because of what happened in the Bay of Pigs.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of similar to what's going on now with Niger, you know, where Niger wants America out. And so they brought Cuba in to get America out.
Yeah, and there's all other kind of countries in Africa that wants America out and want Putin in. You come on in, Russia. 30 years later, same boogeyman. No, that's actually 60 years later. Same boogeyman. Same boogeyman. Think about all that was going on in the 90s with these entertainers. Number 4 on the list. The controversial death of Marilyn Monroe. 1962. It's being said that she was taken out because of sexual secrets that she was holding with the Kennedy brothers and was going to write a book and expose it. And so they sprinkled something in her coffee and she went to sleep. The death of Marilyn Monroe, 1962. Number 5 on the list. What else happened in 1962, Auntie? I'm not going to press your brain too much.
Well, there are several things, but prayer was taken out of the school.
Prayer taken out of school. Number 5, prayer was taken out of school. America drawing itself to the New World Order and removing itself from God, removing itself from Yah. Yeah. We don't want to have nothing to do with you. We want the mafia. This is at the time when mafias and crime bosses and everything and Illuminati was taken over. Get prayer out of school. And watch this, y'all. This is something I was thinking about. Yahuwah didn't respond to that, to what they did, until when? Look back at your list in 1990, 1999.
Columbine.
The Columbine school shootings. See, Yahuwah, he's not from the realm that we are. He doesn't have to respond tit for tat. But what they did there in 1962 was answered in 1999. You don't want prayer in the school? Well, we're going to give you the devil in the schools.
Yep.
Number 6 on the list. Probably the biggest thing of the 60s. 1963, 3 years later after being elected, the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
A flash from Dallas. Two priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. This is the latest information we have from Dallas. I will repeat with the greatest regret. Two priests who were with President Kennedy say he has died of bullet wounds.
The assassination of John F. Kennedy. They, being George Bush and Lyndon Johnson, took out the one and installed the one that they want that would bring about the New World Order. Lyndon Johnson and George Bush are probably some of the most evil men in history, in American presidential history. One of the biggest unsolved murder mysteries of all time. But guess what? When you look at John F. Kennedy and all of those mysterious deaths, even back from the 90s, in the 2020s, all secrets will be revealed. All murder mysteries, Yahuwah is telling the earth to uncover your secrets. Hide your secrets no more. I guarantee you, John F. Kennedy and what really happened will come to light here in the 2020s and possibly even in the next couple years. Hallelujah. Number 7 on the list, 1964. Trying to appease a certain group of people or people who was raising up in protest, they established what's called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. And what that was them saying, no more segregation and, everybody is, can we all get along kind of a thing. But look at this. That sparked number 8. Because you have the racists in this country that wasn't going for it. So in a subtle way, that sparked number 8 in 1965. The assassination of Malcolm X.
Apparently, 2 men approached the speaker's rostrum and discharged shots at him from apparently very close range.
Yes, I turned around quickly, and the next thing I saw was Malcolm falling back in a dead faint.
I heard shots, and I saw people crawling on the floor. And so I got down too. Then when I was looking out, and I saw someone look in amazement to the front, I knew they had shot my husband.
He sustained 1 shot in the lower right chin, and the other 6 hit him in the chest and body.
How many immediately?
No, he wasn't dead immediately, but expired very shortly thereafter.
The assassination of Malcolm X. So even though it wasn't directly related, it was overtly related, if that's even the right word, where the racists of this country, y'all starting to get a little beside yourself with your little laws and your little leaders. Let's put them back in their place. And so number 7 sparked number 8. And then number 8 sparked number 9 in 1965. 1965, the Watts LA riots. The Watts LA riots. 30, 30, 30. You think it's a coincidence that 30 years later, there was another riot in the same city? It is a pattern. It is a pattern. In 1965, you had the Watts, which is a suburb of LA, riots. And then in 92, you had the LA riots. Do you remember that, Auntie?
I do. I remember the Watts riot vividly because that was the first time that I ever seen anything like that, where they was looting and burning and going through the streets, and then they put out martial law because they then brought in the military, you know, and did martial law where you had to be off the street by a certain time. Yes. And they were tanks in our neighborhood.
Wow. So what's coming back?
Martial law.
Martial law.
Martial law.
Tanks in the neighborhood. Rioting.
Yes.
Civil unrest. Taking out of social activists.
Yes.
It's all coming back. So look at this. Number 10, America enters into the Vietnam War. Number 10, America goes over there and sticks its nose and wants to get in the Vietnam War. 1965. Look what happened 30 years later in the 90s. America goes over and declares war in Iraq, sticking your nose in some business. So what is the stage being set up for 30 years later?
World War.
War.
America sticking his nose in places that she has no business being. Oh my goodness. Now we're in 1966. You see how it's something major every year?
Yes.
1966. I know Auntie remembers it, but she probably wouldn't guess it. 1966, which is a spirit that we see boiling now and about to lift its ugly head again. 1966 was this organization started called NOW. The National Organization for Women.
Women. Yeah.
The start of that whole feminist movement started in 1966, where they publicly started an organization called the National Organization for Women, which sounds good on the surface, but it is all leading to the feminist spirit. Hallelujah. Next year, 1967. Auntie, do you remember this? So this is separate than the LA and Watts. Do you remember the race riots of Detroit?
Detroit, yeah.
Detroit. Where this one was specifically about race. 1967. The race riots of Detroit that eventually started spreading to other cities like Cincinnati and Newark before it finally settled down. Civil War. Civil War is coming back. Racial division, racial unrest is coming back. Still in that same year, 1967. So remember, they took out John F. Kennedy so that they could establish their system with their people. In 1967, Thurgood Marshall, the first Black Supreme Court justice, was nominated by Lyndon Johnson. But see, the deception is that Thurgood Marshall was a Freemason. And this is why we have to be careful of the people we follow and following people and things just because it's Black.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He was put in there to do their bid. They have always given us politicians and social activists to do our bid. And because we are so downtrodden, beat down, we take and accept anything Black. Look at Hussein. Look at Barack Hussein Obama. And how our people just accepted him just because he was Black.
Yep.
And you know, I believe that's the man of sin. So we got to have discernment and not accept people just because of Black. Not accept even our own brothers in the walk. Images and all of these things just because they are. It is a trick of the devil. Because we will go for anything, but it's coming from a place of being pressed down and oppressed and hard trodden. So anytime we get something of us, we get excited about it.
Yeah.
But you got to run it through that ringer. Number 14, 1968. What happened in 1968, Auntie? What's number 14?
Well, a couple of things. 68.
I just want to make sure you go in order. The assassination of who?
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee. Police have issued an all-points bulletin for a well-dressed young white man seen running from the scene. Officers also reportedly chased and fired on a radio-equipped car containing 2 white men. Dr. King was standing on the balcony of a second-floor hotel room tonight when, according to a companion, a shot was fired from across the street. In the friend's words, the bullet exploded in his face. Police, who have been keeping a close watch over the Nobel Peace Prize winner because of Memphis' turbulent racial situation, were on the scene almost immediately. They rushed the 39-year-old Negro leader to a hospital where he died of a bullet wound in the neck.
Some very sad news for all of you, and I think sad news for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world. And that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis.
America is shocked and saddened by the brutal slaying tonight of Dr. Martin Luther King. I ask every citizen to reject the blind violence that has struck Dr. King, who lived by nonviolence. I pray that his family can find comfort in the memory of all he tried to do for the land he loved so well.
See, they put these people there for us, and then when they start becoming uncontrollable, or once they have fulfilled their purpose, then they get rid of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Number 15 on the list. Another assassination in California. Who was that?
Robert Kennedy.
Robert
Kennedy. Yep.
Robert F. Kennedy. Took him out because he was coming along and about to run for president.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this country's love and idolatry of the first Kennedy, he probably would have beat Lyndon Johnson or whoever he was going to run against easy. He would have beat him easy. And so they took him out. So what do we have to watch out for?
Assassination.
Yes, because if you look at what's going on now in our political race in this country, if you just take everything away and just let everything be normal and neutral and let everybody vote, one person would smoke the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Easily.
Exactly.
And they know it.
And so what they going to do about it?
They're going to have to handle it.
And family, this is like the desperation that Yahuwah tries to keep with us here. Because, man, think about it. At the time that we're making this, that's only a few months away.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of those things like the race riots and the rioting and the civil unrest and when that happens, this nation is going to change.
Yeah.
It might bring, this is the seriousness of the times that we're in. Hallelujah. Let's go to the next one. Number 16 on the list. Number 16. The fake moon landing. The fake moon landing. Number 16.
15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Shadow. 4 forward, drift into the right a little. 30 seconds forward, drift. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're going to be busy for a minute.
Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon. On this July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
All right. Number 16 on the list. The fake moon landing. So spiritually, with this fake moon landing, what is that showing us that we have to be on the lookout? Is it a coincidence that now in the 20s that they're talking about disclosure and the UFOs and the fake? So the fakeness of NASA, the fakeness. While when some of it come, it's going to be real, and then some of it come, it's going to be fake. The fakeness of supernatural astrological things, along with real supernatural astrological things. 1969, when they got bold enough to say that they landed on the moon. When we all know that was filmed at Walt Disney Studios in the LA desert by Steve Kubrick, or however that dude is.
Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick, and he hid it in the movie The Shining. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you think, Auntie?
Well, you know what? There's something, speaking about fake and supernatural, I just read just today about how the Vatican is given an edict about defining what is supernatural.
Yes.
What is?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yes. So look at that 30-30-30 pattern.
Mm-hmm.
They got bold enough to do it 30 years ago. And now, some 60 years later, they're bold enough to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
30-30-30.
Yeah.
All right. So here go another one. I even got you on this one, Brother Greg. You didn't even see this one coming.
Okay.
Look at how the 90 ended, the last one for the 90, with a doozy, right?
Yes, yeah.
With the Columbine shootings.
Yes.
Can't get much more of a doozy than this for that time. Number 17, and the final thing for the 60s, 1969, the Charles Manson murders.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at this. Notice how they both begin 60 and 90 with presidents. And notice how they both end with murder.
Yes.
30-30-30.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.